You're thinking about buying or selling a home in the Bay Area. Have you considered living on an island? The Bay Area only has a few islands, and today we're going to get into one that is near and dear to my heart, Alameda. Happens to also be where I live. Alameda is known for a lot of things. It's gorgeous, for one. It's centrally located for two, has amazing schools for three, incredible weather for four, plus tons of activities that a lot of people don't even have to leave the island to do. So today we're going to get into some of my favorite reasons and lots of others for why living in Alameda is so great, and then some of the differences between living on the island versus Bay Farm, some of the things that are great about the island, and then some that are great about Bay Farm, two of the main areas of Alameda, and then getting into some of the neighborhoods on a map so you can get a better lay of the land. I'm Andrea West. I've been a realtor since 2010. I'm a Bay Area native, and we bought our family compound here in Alameda in 2019. I know Bay Area real estate from both sides of the bridge, especially Alameda Island. So whether you're looking to move in 9 days or 90 days, I'd love to hear from you. My contact information's below. You can shoot me a text, give me a call, send me an email, or you can reach out to me in my QR code in my banner and book a meeting. All right, quick little history with the city of Alameda. So you've got the main island and you've got Bay Farm. Alameda is only about 11 square miles in total for landmass plus water. And then our population's right around 76,000 people. So let's start to break it down. Before we jump into looking at the map of Alameda, I just want to talk about really some of the great things about living here. The weather, amazing. When it's really hot, like up in my hometown in Nevada, when it's like 100 degrees there, it's like 80 or 85 here. When it's hot in Walnut Creek, same thing. It's about 80 or 85 here. That's generally the high in the summer. Occasionally, sure, it can hit 90, but I mean, really, that's very occasionally. Most of the summer, it's in the 70s, low 80s. It's pretty nice. Part of the reason for that is because of the great location being on the bay, being an island. You've got the nice coastal breeze without kind of as much landmass. So I think it helps keep it cool because you're basically wrapped in water. Not to mention, you're not very far inland, so you're not further away from the coast. So that helps too. In terms of getting around, commuting is great here. You've got lots of options with the ferry or driving, and then you can bike to other public transit. We'll get into all of that. Not to mention, the schools are really great here. Check out greatschools.org. Of course, everyone's definition of what a great school is different, but there are some really nice options that range all over the island and Bay Farm. Lastly, there's a lot to do here. There's a lot to go see and do it, and we'll get into that as well. So if you enjoy living in the Bay Area, but maybe you want somewhere a little less congested, a little more quiet, and it feels like you can get to all of it very quickly without being in it, Alameda is a really great place to live. Great. So here is a map of Alameda. So you've got the main island, which is here. You've got Bay Farm, which is over here. And then this is actually Coast Guard Island, which is part of Alameda. So we do have active Coast Guard that come and live in Alameda and then go work there. So when I say the main island, this is what we're talking about. Now, for context, it's only about 6 miles east to west, and then it's about a mile north to south. So we call this the west end of the island. We call this the east end of the island, and this is kind of right here in the middle. And then over here, you've got Bay Farm, which is actually attached to the Oakland Airport and part of Oakland. So Harbor Bay here and out here, this is Bay Farm. Over here, you can see this is by and large mostly the Oakland Airport and then supporting things like hotels and restaurants and stuff like that. So it's actually attached to, quote, the mainland. There is a bridge that connects the island to Bay Farm. And then over here on the east end, you've got 1, 2, 3 bridges. And then over here on the west side, you have got a tunnel. We call it the Posey Tube. For context, when you're driving around Alameda, and if you live on the west end, if that tube is a little bit backed up, traffic can sometimes get congested. It's a bummer. Over here on the east end, if one of the bridge gets backed up, maybe one of the other ones isn't as bad. So it's nice to have a little bit of extra options. The other thing over here, though, if the bridges are up, because they're drawbridges, if you've got a boat going by that's going through the estuary, then everyone's stuck. There's nothing you can do about it. So just a little bit of difference in commuting on one end of the island or the other, but really it only takes you about 10 to 12 minutes to get from one end to the other. Not the entire island, but the vast majority of it. So it's not too bad if you needed to drive from the East End to go over to the Tube, or vice versa. If you didn't want to take the Tube to get home, you could go to the East End and then back over. Then if you live in the middle of the island, you've got great options on either end. Over here on Bay Farm, you do have the one bridge that connects Bay Farm to Alameda. The other thing is you can just come straight through Oakland. So if you wanted to get off over at the Coliseum International or over at the airport, you can just head over that way. And sometimes I come that way too. If I go down over into Costco over at San Leandro, I'll come straight up this way and just take Bay Farm over and avoid the freeway altogether. So that's pretty nice as well. And this is such a beautiful drive because you're going right along the water. So that's just a little breakdown for how you're getting in and around Alameda and on and off the mainland, so to speak, right? So what is the difference between Bay Farm and the city of Alameda? Well, let's start breaking it down, but I would say there are some big differences. The first one would be the airport. A lot of people come to me and they say, well, I want to live in Alameda and I've heard nice things about Bay Farm, but how's the airport noise? Is it really that bad? I'm going to say it depends. Some people really don't mind it at all. And it really depends on your house too. If you're facing a certain way, or if you're a little bit further off the flight path, you're not going to notice the airport noise as much than say if you're right on the flight path, or maybe you don't have double pane door windows, or maybe you're facing the way the planes are coming. I mean, really, and then if you go outside, you might be hearing it more than if you're inside. Everyone's comfort level is different. I say definitely go check out Bay Farm. It's a lovely place to live. It might be subjective to some airport noise every now and then. By and large, though, you don't get a lot of traffic in the Alameda portion over here due to the airport. So if that's a concern of just like street traffic, I wouldn't be worried about it over here. Now, taking 61 or over here, if you're getting off and going through Oakland, yeah, you definitely can hit some every now and then. But in Alameda, you don't generally feel any of the street traffic from the airport. On the main island, people ask me all the time, can you hear the airport? Well, I live on the East End, which is over here. And yeah, sometimes I do. I never hear it in my house, or very rarely, I should say. Occasionally I hear a light hum, but I do hear it outside occasionally. And again, it's a light hum. I barely notice it. I only notice it because I think about other clients and I go, can I hear the airplane? And occasionally, yes, I do. But over here in the East End, I can actually hear the trains more than I can hear the airplanes. So on the East End, over here, you've got Fruitvale BART. You're really close to Oakland. Versus over here, you're not as close to a near BART station. There's some over here and there's some up here by the lake. But in my experience, you don't hear as much of the train over on this end as you do over on this end. Again, the train doesn't bother me at all. I hear it very light. I don't hear it in my home. I hear it in the yard, and I hear it and I go, oh, it's the train. And it's a very light hum. It's not intrusive to me at all. Everyone's got a different comfort level. And I live a lot closer to the estuary than most. So if you were to live closer to the beach, closer into the bay, or closer to Bay Farm, or even in the middle of the island, I suspect you wouldn't hear it at all. I think it's because I do live particularly close to one of the bridges. So it is more noticeable for me because I'm closer to the Oakland BART station. So that being said, that kind of goes over a little bit of some of the noise questions I get from a lot of people about Alameda. So hopefully that breaks down a little bit of the questions around what is the plane noise like on Bay Farm, and then contrasting that with what are the other transit noises like on the main island. The other difference between Bay Farm and the main island, I would say the vibe overall is very different. Bay Farm is much more quiet, much more residential, much less street traffic. There's really only a couple main streets. So you've got the Harbor Bay here, you've got McCartney here, and you've got Island Drive here. And then Harbor Bay goes along the water here. Now, over in these areas, you can see there's lots of residential in there. There's tons of residential places. So it's mostly a residential island. There are some office parks over here closer to the water and over on this side. There's a really cute breakfast spot over there, also called Jolie's. They have one over on the west end as well. Really great for brunch, really good beignets. And you can actually watch the planes take off, which my toddler loves. So much fun. And you can hear the plane noise. Again, I don't think it's intrusive at all. And it's actually an entirely outdoor restaurant, which is super fun. So you only go on a nice day. okay? So you probably are only going to go when the weather is nice, and you're going to hear the planes, and you'll see what I mean. It's really not that bad. Bay Farm also doesn't have as many businesses. You've got Safeway, and you've got a couple other things in that shopping center, and there's actually a drive-through Starbucks over here as well. And a couple other restaurants sprinkled throughout, but by and large, it's mostly residential. So the vibe is different, which means it is slightly less walkable or bikeable if you wanted to go get yourself a cup of coffee, if you wanted to go see a movie, if you wanted to go get dinner. There are definitely less options. You'll probably end up taking the bridge over. And the fun part about this bridge, I forgot to mention, is you got the main bridge for driving, and then you've also got a pedestrian bridge. So if you want to walk or bike or stroll in some way, there's a separate pedestrian bridge that runs parallel, so you don't have to deal with any of the cross traffic with the drivers. It's pretty great. I love biking it. It's so much fun. And this is such a beautiful bike ride, to be honest with you. Side note there. Bay Farm, also the architecture of the houses is really different. Bay Farm really didn't start getting built out till the 40s and 50s versus Alameda itself started in the late 1800s. So you're going to have a lot of more mid-century architecture and then up through the 2000s. All around Bay Farm. There's a lot of communities in here, condos and townhouses and newer homes that were built in the early 2000s. And then lots of stuff from like the 40s, 50s as well. And then other condo communities from the 70s. I've sold a good number of properties out in Bay Farm. All of my clients love it out there. They really like how quiet it is and how chill it is. So definitely keep Bay Farm in mind. And when you're doing your search, the zip code for Bay Farm is 94502. The zip code for the main island is 94501. That's it. There's only 2 zip codes for Alameda. So if you're checking out realtor.com or you're on my website and you're checking out all the homes for sale and you see 94502, you know it's Bay Farm immediately. 94501, you know it's the main island. So let's start breaking down the main island a little bit, because I would say that that's the most diversity of landscape, houses, neighborhoods versus Bay Farm, because Bay Farm is a little bit smaller and a little bit newer. There's definitely a different footprint. Both have got amazing views, you can imagine. If you've got one of these houses right here along the water, and by the way, there's a beautiful promenade. You can go walk and bike here along the water. You've got beautiful views here, as well as here along the beach. So if you have got waterfront property, you can imagine how amazing that is. Looking on the main island, let's start to break down neighborhoods, generally speaking, and give you a good lay of the land. So out here, you've got Alameda Point. Now, Alameda Point, and forgive my lack of artistic ability, used to be an old naval base. It opened in 1940. It was very essential for World War II and helping the West Coast contingent, but then it ended up closing in 1997. They just didn't need it anymore. So finally, the city of Alameda reclaimed it in 2013, which has really changed Alameda. It's so awesome to have it out there now, because the city has rented all of these big abandoned hangars and all of this space out to local businesses and bigger businesses. So it has really become such a cool place to go hang out, because you've got places like Almanac Brewing, Dash, and Urban Legend Cellars. You've got Hangar One Spirits, St. George Spirits, Humble Sea Brewing, the Rake and Admiral Maltings. Plus, there's Bladium, which is now called The Hub, which is a big local gym. And there's some other local sea and diving companies out there, and other nautical companies, and other production companies out there. Plus, Firebrand Bakery. It's a really great place to go out, hang out, get a drink, enjoy some beautiful views, have a bite to eat, get a cup of coffee at the bakery, you name it. Some of the other great things out at the Point, once a month they have an antique fair. There's tons of activities that come out there. They've got pop-up festivals all the time going on out at Alameda Point. It's really great for culture and the neighborhood vibe of Alameda. And it's kind of fun because it's over here, because you've got these awesome views, because you're actually looking, if I zoom out a little bit, you're looking at San Francisco. So you've got a dead-on view of downtown San Francisco. So Alameda Point, so much fun. Now, people don't generally live out in Alameda Point. There is a little bit of housing over here that's owned by the government. I believe some of it's subsidized housing, but you can't own property out here. It used to be government land and now belongs to the city. However, right around Alameda Point over here, there has been tons of newer construction. That's one of the fun things about Alameda is we've got a mix of new construction and much older homes with a lot of character from anywhere from the 1880s up until 2024. So breaking down a little bit of what that looks like and how that affects the neighborhoods, over here in this area, you have got Alameda Landing. Alameda Landing, as we zoom in over here at Target, you've got the Target Shopping Center. You've got Sarasoni, which is a Japanese restaurant. You also have a Jollibee coming in over there. There's sushi, there's burgers, there's Habit Burger, there's In-N-Out Burger, plus lots of other businesses are over there. So coming out of Alameda Point, let's get a breakdown for the rest of the island and kind of what that looks like coming out of there. Because as I mentioned, Alameda Point, people don't really live in Alameda Point, but I like to mention it's there because there's a lot of history. It's a really popular place to go in Alameda. Even if you don't live here, a lot of people come from Oakland and surrounding areas to come check out the hangars and go to the breweries and have a really good time. Alameda Point is so much fun. It's great to go out. Plus, I should mention, it is totally family friendly. You can go take the kids, you can take the dog, you can take your grandma and grandpa and your aunt and uncle, and everyone has a really good time out there. Some of the breweries even have places for kids and outdoor games. I know the Rake has got cornhole, and I know Almanac has got a sand pit out there. It is just such a good time to take everybody, enjoy the great weather that we have. And a lot of the places out there also have sports or games playing on TV. Plus, if you're out at the breweries, there's also really great food trucks that come out. There's a really nice high-end restaurant that came out there recently called Saltbreaker, and there's Firebrand, which does coffee and baked goods as well as their own Firebrand bread. That's what they're known for. But other than that, it's food trucks, which is super fun because you can kind of get something a little bit different each time you go out. So looking at the rest of the island, as I mentioned, over here, we're on the east end, over here, we're on the west end, and then over here, we're in the middle. We call it the center island, and each one has its own little neighborhoods that gets broken down. Great. So now that you know a little bit about Bay Farm, let's compare it to the main island. Well, one more thing that these two share, in addition to having bridges connecting them, they all also have their own ferries. So there's the Harbor Bay Ferry that comes right out of Bay Farm here. And then there's two ferries that come out of the main island. You've got the Seaplane, and then you've got the Main Street Ferry. Now, both the Seaplane and the Harbor Bay Ferry are direct ferries. So they come directly from Alameda to San Francisco and vice versa. So I know personally, I've taken the Seaplane Ferry. It's a beautiful ride. It's also a very quick ride. It's only about 20 minutes at max. I've actually been on it when it was 16 minutes. It's really quick. Over here on the main street, it actually shares with Jack London Store. You can see these little dots. So that means that sometimes it picks up at Alameda first, then they go up and pick up in Jack London, and then they go out to the city. Sometimes it picks up at Jack London first, and then picks up in Alameda, and then goes off into the city. So sometimes the ride is only about 20 minutes coming from Alameda. Sometimes it's closer to 45 if you have to go pick up at Jack London. So if you want a quicker ride, Seaplane and Harbor Bay are definitely both quicker. If you want things a little more leisurely, if you're not in a hurry, you can go take the Main Street Ferry. Also new over here, that actually just opened in the past few weeks, we have this really fun water taxi that takes off from over here at Alameda Landing and connects you over to Jack London Square. And that's really cool because that's a direct route into Jack London. And Jack London is a really great place to go. Lots of restaurants, bars, beautiful views. There's a marina over there, shopping to do. Plus, sometimes they have live music, and there's also an arcade called Plank. That one's super fun to go over to as well with the kids. So as we're breaking down the island, as I mentioned, all the ferries are over here. There's not really any ferries over here because you're kind of a little bit locked more with the estuary. So let's start looking at the map, this being the west and this being the east. So we call this the west end and we call this the east end, and then this is what's in the middle. Way over here on this tip of the west end, these little squares, and then over here, we call this Alameda Point. This is actually the old naval base. It had opened in 1940. It was essential for World War II and helping out the West Coast contingent. It closed in 1997, and then finally the city took possession of it in 2013. And since they did, so much has changed out there. They have rented out and leased out these big, gorgeous hangars that used to be active and are no longer, to local businesses. So you've got places like Almanac Brewing, Humble Sea, the Rake and Admiral Maltings, plus you've got wineries, you've got Dash and Urban Legend. In addition to that, you've also got the distilleries of Hangar One and St. George Spirits, who used to do tours. Don't believe they do anymore, but they're beautiful out there. There's also a couple bars out there and some really nice restaurants. There's Firebrand Cafe as well if you want to get yourself some sourdough bread, a bite to eat, a cup of coffee. And there's an amazing gym in one of the hangars. It used to be called Palladium. It's now called the Hub. There's lots of indoor and outdoor soccer, pickleball, plus, heavy weights and classes and all your classic gym cardio equipment and all that fun stuff. So go have a good workout, go get yourself a beer, a glass of wine afterward, enjoy the view, enjoy the great weather. And it's very family and pet friendly. So this is super fun to do on the weekends with the family or with friends. Lots of people come and visit out and like to come out here as well from the rest of the Bay Area. Not to mention there's events that go on out there. So we have these big cultural events and fiestas and festivals. And every month there's also an antique show out there. So tons of good things going on, lots of space to do it. Definitely check out Alameda Point if you're in town. You can go 7 days a week. A lot of these places are open, but check hours so you can, make sure you hit the good stuff. Let's zoom in on the West End a little bit. So near Alameda Point, we've seen a lot of newer construction since the year 2000. There've been a lot of neighborhoods that have developed and been constructed out here. Some really convenient location out here because you can get to and from the ferry. You can get out here to Alameda Landing that has lots of shopping, and you're close to the tube. Right, so here's the tube getting you in and out of Oakland. Alameda Landing's one of the main shopping centers over on this end. You've got Target and Safeway and Michael's being kind of your three main anchors. And then there's lots of eateries and other shopping in there as well. Obviously, you've also got In-N-Out Burger, and that leads you kind of right into there. Aquatech is out there if you want to have swim lessons for the kids or just go have some swimming yourself. It's indoor, so you can go year round, which is kind of nice. So if the weather's crappy or the weather's nice, you can go either way. So some of the new construction out here is actually still going on. You've got Bay 37 out here, and that is a mix of single family homes, townhomes, and condos. There's several hundred out there. Some are still being constructed. A lot of it has been sold already. So people have been moving in and living there. As I mentioned, close to the ferry. And then you've got the water taxi that actually takes you into Jack London Square now. So super convenient over here. So living in this area, most of the construction in and around here is in the past like 20 to 25 years. We've also got some newer parks out here, which is really great for both the kids and the dogs, depending on what you're looking to do. Coming down here, this neighborhood is called Bayport. Bayport is another one that was a little bit newer, built in the early about 2007. These are single family homes. So you've got more of the outdoor space. They're not big yards. You got a little yard or a little deck, enough to definitely do some gardening or have, an outdoor table and chairs. It's a really beautiful community. Definitely not gated, but it kind of has that vibe of people don't generally go there unless they're going there for a reason. So things in this area, like I mentioned, are on the newer end. The College of Alameda is here. This is a city college. Not a four-year school, but tons of great classes if you want to go get some education over there. So this is kind of the newer construction quadrant on the West End. Over here is more classic, a little bit older of Alameda, lots of kind of early 1900s construction up through the 1920s and 30s. Webster Street over here on the West End is the main downtown. So Webster Street is kind of where a lot of people go for local restaurants, local businesses, go get a bite to eat, do some shopping. Down here, you've got Ballina Bay, which has got marinas out here. So if you have a boat and you want to have a boat off of your home, that is an option over here in some of these places. You can get one of these townhomes with a dock slip, and then you can fit a 40-foot boat in there. They're beautiful. Ballina Bay is so quiet because it's an island off of an island. Isn't that fun? It's really great living out here. It's gorgeous. Heading from the West End, this is still the West End, but now going, I should say, east of Webster. Lots of more kind of classic old school architecture, 20s, 30s, Edwardians, Spanish houses, Victorians, craftsmen's, lots of that all over Alameda Island. Forbidden Island is one of my favorite bars. It's a tiki bar. It's so much fun. It's kind of kitschy, super cool, super trendy. Got indoor and outdoor spaces. have to be 21 and over here, even though they serve food, no one under 21. So it is not kid friendly, but it is definitely friendly for the parents when they have a night off. Such a fun place. Coming out of there, you'll see we're getting kind of more to the middle of the island. I want to touch on what is here as well. So see these lovely lagoons here? That actually used to be where the island ended, along the water. And then back in mid-century, like 1950s, 60s, they actually the city went ahead and added this landfill and expanded the island, and then built these additional blocks kind of out here, Otis and out toward the water, of land. There are tons of houses out here. It has got some of the best real estate for views coming down, going along the water. It's amazing. It's beautiful down here. All of these homes have got lagoons. The lagoons are so fun. They actually don't connect to the bay, as you can see on the map. So yeah, you can see they added all of this, which means most of the properties down here were built in like the 60s and 70s. So the construction down in this area is not as old as it was in some of Alameda, where it's kind of early 1900s. So you've got Grand Street here. So if you're over on this side, you're kind of on the west. And then if you're over here, this area here is what we call Gold Coast. And then this area next to it is the Bronze Coast. These areas used to be what now are the lagoons and what used to be the shoreline, because they built it out back in the mid-century. So knowing that these properties are very estately, they've got generally bigger lots, they've got bigger footprints, you can get a much larger house generally in these areas, and they're beautiful areas. The trees are gorgeous, the streets are gorgeous, there's trees everywhere. I mean, those are beautiful neighborhoods, a beautiful place to live. And you might be lucky enough to have some waterfront property on the lagoon. Houses in Gold Coast and Bronze Coast generally are closer to $2 million and up. Mostly because they're bigger. Not all of them. Some of them are a little bit smaller. I sold one in the Gold Coast under 2 million. It's a beautiful property, a little bit more modest size. And it's such a wonderful place to live though. Coming out of Gold Coast and Bronze Coast, looking back to the center of the island, the majority around here is kind of the late 1800s, early 1900s to 1930s architecture, Spanish, Edwardians, Craftsmen's, Victorians. With the exception of over here, we've got some more new construction. This is the Alameda Marina. It's currently being built. There have only been a handful of homes sold so far. They are very vertical homes. All of these are 3 to 4 stories. The first story being garage, the second story being living space, third story being your bedrooms, and your fourth story being your roof deck, which for me, I'm a big sucker for a roof deck. Beautiful, gorgeous. I really like the layout. They're very open. They're very functional. I think they're very well designed units. I've got a whole other episode with new construction, so we get into that, and I have tours there. You can go see the actual home inside and out and talk about the community. In my opinion, it's such a beautiful place to consider if you like new construction. So coming over here to the east end of the island and out of the center, we've got the second downtown, which is Park Street. Park Street is historic. It's beautiful. It's your main downtown over here on the east end. And this actually has the Park Street Bridge. So going out on Park Street on the east end, very similar to Webster on the west end, lots of local businesses, restaurants, bars, lots of local businesses. Park Street's a really fun place to go out. And it's really convenient if you live over here on the east end. Breaking down, going east of Park Street, this is what we call, by and large, just the east end. Over here being Fernside, over here along the water being the marina. The homes over here on the east end, these are, for the most part, I would say kind of early 1900s to 1930s and 40s. I happen to live in an older Spanish home from the 1920s myself. My neighbor to one side of me is a craftsman. The other side is Spanish homes. Across the street, it's a craftsman. Up the street, there's Victorians. Down the street, there's an Edwardian. I mean, it's kind of a nice mix of things. Some of these streets are so charming. You can tell when you walk down them that they used to be laid out for a carriage. Like, for example, Northwood, Southwood, and then you've got Gibbons in between. It's one of my favorite streets in the city to go walk down. There's such mature trees. It's beautiful. And you can tell it used to be for like a horse and carriage. Over here on this end as well, I think Google Maps has even got it picked out. You've got Thompson Street, which is Christmas Tree Lane. There it is. It did pick that out. Every year at Christmas, I know it's not an actual rule, but it's kind of this unspoken rule. Almost every, I think it actually is every house on this one block of Thompson Street decorates for the holidays. It's so beautiful. It happens right after Thanksgiving. It's so much fun to go do with the kids or without the kids. It's a really great time going to check all of Christmas Tree Lane out. They really deck it out. I love going trick-or-treating here in Fernside. We took the kid last year and it was like Disneyland. It was crazy. Trick-or-treating also super fun in Gold Coast. I've heard, I haven't done it yet, but lots of really fun family-friendly activities and for all people of all ages all around the island. I hope that map gave you a good little tour and lay of the land for the island. I will say there are some fun little quirks about Alameda Island that I love to share with people. Most of the island is 25 miles an hour. So even some of the main streets that you're going across east to west, you're hitting 25 miles an hour to do so. There are a couple exceptions for some areas and you'll see them pretty well advertised. Otherwise, you can assume it's 25 miles an hour even on the main roads. As I mentioned, the schools in Alameda are great. Definitely check out greatschools.org. Kind of depending where you are, you can find schools that are rated 6, 7, 8, and 9 in lots of Alameda. And these are public schools. That's one of the reasons it's so popular with people with school-age kids because, yeah, the schools are pretty great. Another great reason to live in Alameda, as I mentioned, in addition to amazing weather because you're in the Bay, you are so centrally located everything. I know we talked a little bit about the bridges, but just looking at kind of the greater Bay Area map, right here, you can get in and out of Oakland super quick. You can get in and out to the airport super quick. And then if you take the ferry, you're in and out of San Francisco really quick. Or if there's no traffic, you can take the bridge. Now, everyone's subject to traffic if you're driving. Plus, you can get to BART. Fruitvale BART over here. You've got the BARTs over here at the lake. And you can catch the public transit, get the 51A that'll take you out to the BART, or you can drive, or my favorite way, you can bike. Alameda is truly just such a special place. I love living here. It's chill. It feels really great. I can go out on a walk with my dog and my kid. I see kids on my street all the time walking to school. I see them out walking their dog. I see them out riding their bike. If you live on one of the quieter streets, you can imagine you can do those things like biking and walking and playing outdoor sports and activities and, being a little more comfortable in your area because you don't have as much through traffic. There are even quiet streets that you're not supposed to drive down unless you live on them. And then those are made for more people like walking and playing sports in the streets. And they're sprinkled throughout the island as well. It's a really nice way to enjoy some outdoor time in the community. Really took off with the pandemic. Honestly, truly, Alameda is just such a gorgeous place to live. You can go down to the beach, you can go fly a kite, you can go have yourself a picnic, you can go bike down there, you can go walking, you can just go enjoy the vistas, you can go launch a boat. We did that for my 40th birthday. We rented a boat and we went out on the estuary and it was just so great. It was such a nice way to enjoy the beautiful weather and the area with my family and friends. And just such a chill day too, such great weather. It went, 5 whole miles an hour. It was pretty awesome. In addition, there's lots of trails and other outdoor areas in Alameda that you can go do some recreational activities. There's a couple yacht clubs. If you're into boating and you want to get serious about it and get social with it, you can go join either the Encinal Yacht Club or the Alameda Yacht Club. There's just so much to love about living in Alameda. Generally speaking, people ask me, is it more expensive to live in Alameda? I'm going to say compared to somewhere like Berkeley or Walnut Creek or Fremont or something that I would say offers some similar amenities, no. It is not more expensive to live in Alameda than those areas. In fact, it's actually a little bit cheaper in some ways. I would say it depends on what you're looking for. But if you're looking for maybe, say, a 3-bed, 2-bath house on a modest sized lot with decent school districts, yeah, you're going to pay pretty similarly that you would somewhere like, I don't know, Walnut Creek, maybe a little bit less even, maybe a little bit less than Fremont, and probably on par with somewhere like Berkeley. So don't let that little best kept secret thing scare you off. We definitely are just as attainable as the rest of the Bay Area. I hope this was a fun little episode for you to get to know Alameda just a little bit on a map. I've got a walking tour, and then I've got other new construction videos to break down Alameda more for you, because I just love living here so much. And yes, it's the best kept secret. I do want to keep it that way, but I also really want everyone to know about it. So help me make both of those things come true. If you're thinking about buying or selling property anywhere in the Bay Area, but especially in Alameda, I would love to connect with you. My cell phone and email are below. You can shoot me a text, give me a call, or send me an email. You can book a meeting with me. My QR code is in my banner. As I mentioned, I'm a Bay Area native. I've lived in Alameda since 2019, and I love where I live. So I hope you will come love where you live too. Till next time, take care.